Wired from all angles here. Okay, what I'm going to do is talk about Parkinson's from my standpoint, which is the layman's standpoint. So all the scientists in the room, you know, if I sort of dumb it down a lot, that's just the way it is for me. And I'm going to talk about the DBS and what I went through with the surgery and all the good stuff that goes with it. So, okay. So what is Parkinson's? Well, it's a neurodegenerative disease. Degenerative. Now, that's a big word, probably worth a lot of points in Scrabble. What does it mean? Well, movement is normally controlled by dopamine, which is a chemical produced by the brain that basically lubricates the parts of the body and goes to the brain, to the sections that deal with motor skills and movement and other neat stuff. And when the cells die off, then the symptoms appear. Now, in reality, if everyone in this room lived to be 130, you'd all show some signs of Parkinson's. The good news for me is that it happened early. I was diagnosed at 55. The average age is about 60 to 65. So I'm what's known as early onset. I guess the best example of early onset would be Michael J. Fox, who was about 32, somewhere in that area. So, you know, it's something that will happen to everybody over time. Fortunately, most of you will be dead long before that, so you won't have to worry about it. So what are the most common symptoms? Well, come on, there you go. We got tremor, the shake. Everybody knows the shakes. Slowness and stiffness, where you just can't seem to move. Balance problems. I mean, balance is a huge issue. And rigidity of the muscles. Okay, those are the four most common symptoms. Now, that by no means the complete list, but it's a good start. So what are some of the other symptoms? Well, fatigue. I don't know about you, but I need a nap in about 20 minutes. Anybody else here feel the same way? Soft speech, so you won't be able to hear what I say, and that's why I wear them. I'm sorry, that's why I wear the microphone. Problems with handwriting. I don't know why all doctors must have Parkinson's, because nobody can read their writing. But my writing has gotten so bad that I'll write something on the shopping list, go back 10 minutes later and say, what is this? I don't remember what I've written. Stoop posture, constipation, sleep disturbances. I found out why the sleep disturbances are there. I never noticed. I was researching dopamine yesterday. And apparently it interacts with a part of the brain that produces melatonin. And when it doesn't do what it's supposed to do, you have trouble sleeping at night, which I do. I was up at 4 this morning rehearsing this speech. Nothing to rehearse because it's all up here, but okay. So how did I diagnose it? Well, nothing bothers me more than hearing somebody say, my friend's going to get a blood test to see if he has Parkinson's. You get all the blood tests he wants, there are none. There are no x-rays or tests to confirm it. What happens is your neurologist will go through your history, medical history, careful physical exam, and then determine whether you have Parkinson's or a similar disease such as essential tremors or whatever. Now, the true diagnosis is really scientific. You go to a neurologist and you do 4 tests. One is this. Okay, that's fun. One is you stand there and he pulls you back. Another is this. I forget what the fourth one is. If you fail 3 out of 4, you got Parkinson's. That's scientific. But that's the way you find out. It took my neurologist, when I was finally diagnosed, 45 seconds to diagnose me. I had been going to a neurologist for 2 years for treatment. And 45 seconds. Oh yeah, no doubt in my mind. So, is it the same for everybody? Absolutely not. Not everybody has the same symptoms. I have a friend who never had a tremor in his life, but he used to freeze. He'd be walking and he'd freeze. 45 minutes later, he could move again. In fact, somebody called me last week, asked me to phone this woman about DBS, and I called and said, could you call back in an hour? I'm frozen. Excuse me, you're what? So everybody's different, and it's a progressive condition. Symptoms will worsen over time, and you may get new ones. When I was first diagnosed, I had tremor in my left hand. Actually, before I had tremor in my left hand, I walked like this. Couldn't straighten my left arm. What I found out later was that was tendonitis from trying to hide the tremor. So I started in the left hand. Now I happen to have a small tremor in the right hand, which wasn't there before. Now, is that caused by the DBS? Is it caused by being 4 years older? Is it caused by having Parkinson's for 4 more years? Your guess is as good as mine. All I know is it's there and I got to deal with it. So let me give you a little bit of my background. So I was diagnosed with Parkinson's in 2005 at the age of 55. My major symptoms included tremors, stiffness, and dystonia. Now, what is dystonia? It's a country in Eastern Europe. No. Those of you who do know what it is, tell me if I'm wrong, because I didn't even know I had it until I went for qualifying for this. Normally, your toes will point down. If you have dystonia, your toes will point up. I always thought it was just because of muscle, but it turns out it was truly for my Parkinson's. So, medications, I want you to watch this very carefully. Before I had my DBS, I was on 3 pills. Azolect, which is a dopamine agonist, Cinemet, which is levodopa, carbidopa, and Requip, which is the gambler's drug. It causes major compulsive behavior. So I was on, here we go, 23 pills a day. Now, remember that number because I'm going to come back to this a little later. What were the side effects? Well, the medicine is not bad. It's what happens from the medicine. Worst one was fatigue, and I still have it. Extreme dyskinesia. Now, what is dyskinesia? Well, it's an uncontrollable movement. You've all seen Michael J. Fox on TV where he's bobbing and weaving. That's not the Parkinson's. That's dyskinesia, and that's strictly a side effect of the meds. It got to the point where I would not drive my car after 3 o'clock in the afternoon because as I got tired, the dyskinesia got worse. I felt I was totally out of control. So those are mine. Now, what did I look like? Well, here's a video that was taken in 2013. Just watch for a sec. Frustrated, angry. It's a roller coaster. There's depression sets in when you can't do stuff.
Lorne Collis was 53 when he started experiencing shaking and stiffness in his left arm. However, one's progression is different. Within a year or two, the tremor got so bad that he had to sit on his hand. Shortly after, he was diagnosed with Parkinson's, a neurodegenerative disease that affects the central nervous system.
The best coping mechanism is denial. Everybody does it. I just put my hands in my pockets. When I'm having a bad hour, everybody does it.
But getting out every day and keeping active is one way he says he can mitigate the disease's true symptoms.
Makes me feel good. And if you feel good, then you're okay. Now, don't believe everything you hear because I don't exercise every day. Someone's shaking their head there. But anyhow, you'll notice my foot was doing this. Okay. I had no idea that was happening until I saw this video. And one shot 2 weeks later by Global News. I received a phone call from Global. That was the year that 2013 Michael J. Fox had a new show coming on. Global called me up. They wanted to interview somebody with Parkinson's. What I thought about Michael Fox doing a show about Parkinson's. Show hadn't been out, nobody had seen it, but they wanted to interview me anyways. So why not? I'm the celebrity. So anyhow, I watched the same thing. The other thing was that we'd go for my normal visit to the neurologist, and he says, so how's your dyskinesia? And I'd go, fine. I would go, no, it's not. He almost cut his arm off in the kitchen. I don't let him touch the knives. I couldn't see it. Okay, everybody else could. I couldn't see it. Now, what's happened now, it's a little weird, is that I can create dyskinesia electronically if I turn up my DBS high enough. And I can feel it before there are any visible signs. So before where I didn't know I was having it and you had to tell me, now, I can tell whether it's going to happen or not, and I try and avoid it as much as possible. So let's talk about qualifying for DBS, because not everybody can have it. Okay. There are 3 tests that they do. It's a 3-day process to qualify. The first thing they do is they take an MRI to make sure there's no brain damage. No sense drilling in your head if there's already damage in there. Second, they do a neuropsych exam. Anybody ever applied for a job and go through Myers-Briggs? What is this ink blot? Yeah. What's this ink blot? Draw a picture, count backwards by 3s from 10. Now, I did okay. What they want to do is establish that you've got a baseline of cognition. Otherwise, again, there's no point doing the surgery. What's interesting is that normally after 1 year, they do the test again. I fell through the cracks somehow. I just had my follow-up 3 weeks ago. So they're a little behind on that one. What I found is I still don't know what the ink blots are. They still look like ink blots. I still can't draw. But on the logic stuff and on the logic models, I did better. I could feel it. And the reason was I could concentrate. Whereas before I had the surgery, I was so busy controlling my body and trying to sit still, I couldn't concentrate and think the answers through. So I definitely did better on that part now. The last part's the levodopa challenge. That's a hoot. So what you do is you have to go down to the office without taking your meds in the morning. That in itself is a challenge because you have to get there off your meds. And then they do the stuff they do during a normal exam. The fingers, screwing in the light bulb, tapping your feet, the balance and walking, and they videotape you. And then they force feed you 1.5 times your normal morning dosage with applesauce. And say, come back in 20 minutes. And you do it all over again, and they videotape you one more time. What they're looking for is how much better you are on the meds than off. Because if the meds don't help, DBS won't help either. So why are we wasting time and drilling into your skull if it's not going to work? So again, you have to establish a baseline. Now, I had a 52 or 54% improvement rate before. It was 70-some-odd% afterwards. So for me, it worked. So let's talk about the procedure. Oh, this is going to take a little time. So you get up in the morning at 4 o'clock. And you take a small dosage of pills, not enough to stop you completely from shaking, just enough to take the buzz off. Because they want you in your natural state when they do surgery, but they don't want such a point where they can't put the IV in because you're doing this. Okay, so take a little bit to take the buzz off. You come down to the hospital, you get there at 6 o'clock in the morning. You go in, the first thing they do is they put a wristband on, take you out back, and the nurse says, okay, other than that wristband, anything you weren't born with comes off. Best sign I've ever heard. So anyhow, and then she proceeds to give me 2 gowns, one frontwards, one backwards, a pair of booties, and a pair of pajama bottoms. One size fits nobody. And then they go and they walk me down to diagnostic imaging, where we sit and we wait. Now I'm walking, down the hall like this, trying to get there. We wait, and we all know that Toronto Western's a teaching hospital, and we got used to seeing rather young residents, but I didn't realize a 12-year-old was going to do my brain surgery. But anyhow, so he introduced himself, and then the actual neurosurgeon comes out, and he brings out a needle. It's about, seen like that long. And he puts it in 4 places, 1, 2, 3, 4. And the reason he does that is he's putting this on. Well, yeah, isn't that cute? I joked, that's the worst part of the whole procedure, is screwing that thing into your head. I joked that I could play goalie for the Maple Leafs, and he said, no, you can't, because that thing's worth 140 grand, you're not playing hockey. The only other problem with it, it's not heavy at all, because it's made out of some carbon fiber, fantastic stuff, but it's got a piece of crust at the back, so you can't lie down. So it's a little bit uncomfortable. So they take me down to do a CAT scan, make sure that all the markings are in the right place. And then they wheel me back upstairs. They really don't want me bouncing off the walls, holding up my pants with 140 grand on my head. So I go back upstairs to the pre-op. Now here's the most disconcerting part of having surgery at Toronto Western. I happen to be in the last cubicle before the door to go into the operating suite. So for about an hour and a half while I'm waiting to go in, every time somebody would go in and out there, now, here it is. I'm going to have people drilling in my head. They can't afford a Canon WD-40. It's scary stuff. So they finally take me in, and the doctor says, okay, we're going to... Oh, by the way, you can deny it all you want that you're nervous. I was not nervous when I showed up. My blood pressure was only 210 over 192. Now, the anesthesiologist was a sweetheart. He calmed me down, managed to get the IV in, because it was sort of doing this. And then as they wheeled me into the operating room, he says, what kind of music do you like? And I said, I don't know, so-and-so. Pulls his iPhone out in the operating room, goes to YouTube, finds some of those songs and plays it, just to calm me down. So we go into the operating room, and it was very busy. You have the neurosurgeon and 2 or 3 residents. You had the anesthesiologist and 2 or 3 residents, and then I call them the audio technicians, because what they're doing is listening to brainwaves. And I guess I was watching too much Nashville at the time because it reminded me of the guys tweaking the sound to get it just right. But for 4.5 hours, you're, and he's going, oh, try here, try here. So they, so we get in there, and he goes, okay, we're going to freeze you up here, and you cut a little. He says, now, we're going to drill into your head. You're not going to feel a thing. Wrong. Get a little more juice, please. So he does that. Now they're going through, and after about, I guess, about 2 hours, he grabs my hand and he says, okay, do this and whatever. And he's making sure that I can move it when I'm supposed to. And I wasn't shaking at the time. Excuse me. Where are we going? I just had a senior moment. I lost my train of thought. So anyhow, and then he says, okay, how many fingers? And I said, 2. And he said, no, I'm serious. I said, so am I. Without my glasses on, I have double vision in my left eye. It's caused by the muscle twitching from Parkinson's. And so he says, okay, well, how many do you really see and how many are there? So it took approximately 3 hours to do the first side. And then he says, the second side's faster because we've already got it in. And second side, about an hour and a half, a little over that. And he said, okay, we're going to finish up and sew you up now. I said, can I have the good stuff? And he said, sure. Next thing I remember, I'm in the recovery room. Recovery was pretty fast and very uneventful. So I come out now. By the way, they've only done half the surgery now because they've done this, my 2 little horns. By the way, if I had hair, you wouldn't see these. That's another story. But I got wires hanging out of my head because the actual guts of the unit, the pacemaker here, they don't install till the following Tuesday. So I'm walking around and I've got wires dangling out of my head and my little turban that I'm wearing. And we go back to the room, and I get one hell of a headache, but you'd expect that. And around 5 o'clock, I said to my family, go home, you've been here since 6 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to sleep. And they left, and I said, I couldn't find my clothes. I figured they must have left the bag downstairs. So I'm walking around the hall, going, nurses stay, I found them. But so this is what, 3 hours after coming back from the operating room. Okay, so that's the first day. Second day is really interesting, especially to you guys. Because you've got wires hanging out of your head, you're a perfect target for doing some experiments, right? They can hook you up without doing anything invasive. And so it's totally voluntary. They asked if I'd mind. I could quit whenever I want. And they said, sure, great. So they come and they wheel me upstairs to the 13th floor of Toronto Western. That should have been a sign right there. Now, I don't know what your lab looks like, but this one was furnished by Salvation Army. It was a Commodore 64, I'm sure it was a computer. And they hook you up to these things and they make you do stuff and they listen to the noise it makes. To me, I have no idea what was going on, but you're looking at a screen and every time something would happen, you had to point which direction it was going. And then there were some words going by, the white, blue, red, but the word wasn't in the color. So the word white was in blue, the word blue was in red, the word green was in white, and so they were trying to see if you could differentiate between the two. And I did that for, about an hour and a half, 2 hours, and I got so tired. I said, guys, do you mind? I'm done. And they said, okay. And I apologized that I couldn't do more, and the person who was running this experiment was so excited. She said, hey, you're my first real subject. I got real data now. All right, life is good. So that was my day there. Now, let's go back upstairs. One on the left was taken the day after surgery on the Friday. Rhonda crawled into bed with me because it was the first time in probably 8 or 9 years that she could lie with me that I wasn't bouncing all over the place. This one here is my daughter, was taken on Saturday. She went to Kaplansky's and brought me my favorite corned beef sandwich. Too bad Kaplansky's is gone now. I ate it at the picnic table outside the hospital. So slowly, getting a little stronger every day, and still got the wires hanging out of my head. And on the Monday morning, my daughter was coming for lunch, and I got the word that I'm being evicted. And, excuse me, we need your bed for we're putting you in a semi-private. All right. So I go out for lunch, I come back, nobody could find where I was supposed to be or who I was. My clothes, everything's missing, but here I am with my bandage. But we went for lunch, took my daughter for lunch in Kensington Market, had the best fish and chips I've ever eaten. And then I walked around and showed her where I grew up in the area. This is like 4 days after surgery. I'm walking around Kensington showing her houses and stuff. So that was kind of neat. Anyhow, the second day of surgery was pretty simple because you're out when they implant this. Okay, so you go in, they put you out, you wake up, you're done. So here I am now, the layers are gone, but I got 72 staples between here and here. When did they stop teaching home ec in medical school? Used to be they'd get out the needle and thread and sew a nice straight line. Now, and they're so nice because when they send you home from the hospital, they send you home with a staple remover to take to your family doctor. Well, she was thrilled, don't ask. She just thought the idea was great. So that's the insertion part, the surgery part. Now, let's talk about programming, because if they don't program it, it doesn't work. When you leave the hospital, it's off, because they got to wait for the swelling in your brain to go down before they can turn it on. And you have what's called, come on, there it comes, the honeymoon period, where you have absolutely no Parkinson's symptoms whatsoever. And it's because they've been mucking around in your brain and they move stuff, and I guess your brain is now mush, I don't know. Scientists will know the correct answer to that one. But anyhow, some people last a week, some people last a month, some people don't get it at all. For me, it lasted 2 weeks, and then symptoms come back. So then they start programming. Well, what's there to program? Well, I've learned that there are 4 separate wires on each probe. So you can program the firing sequence, you can program the length of time that it fires for, program the voltage. Now, they've got a much more complicated machine at the hospital. I've got this. I can open a garage door at 50 feet. I can also see what this thing says about let's see what we got here. It says, I didn't read it right. I'm dead. Okay, try again. Clear up. It says okay. It says I got 3.55 volts on the right side, 3.4 volts on the left side, and I got 75% charge left, which I'll talk about later. I can also turn it off, which I really don't recommend doing, but I have had cases where I had to. So they start tweaking your voltage and decreasing your medication. Obviously, you don't want to be on the same amount of meds you had before the surgery. With the surgery, you'll go nuts. So they slowly start bringing it down. Now, I had 2 cases where I had a problem with the programming. The first one was very close to after the surgery. And I left there, and I was just feeling a little off. And, no problem, I'll walk it off. And we went to the AGO, the Art Gallery of Ontario, because we're downtown and we're 3 blocks away, and I don't get down there very often. And I felt so bad, as you know what, I'm going down to the cafeteria to have a nap. And I crashed on a bench for half an hour. Got up, still felt awful. Tried texting my son to come and pick us up. 15 minutes, 1 line. I couldn't hit the button. It was just awful. Second time wasn't quite as bad. We went down for an adjustment. We went for dinner. I went for lunch with a friend. And all of a sudden, I'm starting to feel twitching in my back. And I said to Rhonda, I'm going for a walk. Let's see if I can walk it off. And as I'm walking along Nassau Street, I'm doing this. I could not walk. I was skipping. What did I do? I shut it off with that and went back to the hospital. Because it was the only way I was going to get back there. I had to skip back. It would have taken me 3 weeks. So I could walk. I was shaking like crazy, but at least I could walk. And so they play with that. Now, again, there are so many different tweaks. You got to go back initially every couple of weeks. I'm now up to every 6 months. And it makes a big difference. Now, let's talk about today. Oh, what a handsome fellow. What kind of meds am I on? Remember, I was on 23 pills a day before? I'm on no pills right now. I'm on the Nupro patch, which is newly approved in Canada. It's been approved in the States for about 7 years. Now, does it do anything? I don't know. They asked me if it does when I was there a couple of weeks ago, and I said, I don't know. I'm never off, because with the patch, you're getting medication all the time through your system. So I can't tell you if it's working or not, because I don't know what it feels like when it's not working. All I know is I haven't developed too bad a rash yet. I'm running out of places to shave, though, to put it on. Maybe no hair. But that's the biggest one. Now, what other symptoms have I got right now? Well, I got lots. I got a sore wrist. I can't close my fist. I've got no strength in my thumb. Now, that could be arthritis. Could be. However, I can make it go away if we adjust the DBS. So I'm saying it's Parkinson's. It's a real nice excuse for just about everything that goes wrong. It's my Parkinson's, what the hell? Okay, now in this particular case, I think it is. We just adjusted it 2 weeks ago. It was good for a day and a half, and then pain comes back. So we'll play with it a bit. Other than that, I still take my afternoon naps. And those are never going to go away. I still have lousy sleeping patterns. And that's about it. A little tremor here and there. Now, let's talk about batteries. Unfortunately, these little things in here don't last forever. I mean, this is good. This is the electrodes, but the guts is in your chest. And so the average battery is supposed to last 5 years. Supposed to. My first battery lasted 28 months. My second one lasted 20. And my third one, who knows? I just had it replaced in May. Why? Why? Come on, there. Why? That's what I said. Why? Well, remember I told you I'm not on any pills at all, eh? Less than 10% of the people who have DBS go off all their medication. The reason that I am able to go off all my medications is because the voltage is so high. And so I'm draining batteries like it's going out of style. Now their seniors moment, it comes with the Parkinson's. They tried to get me after the first battery change to lower the voltage and just go on a little bit of Cinemet. Lasted 3 days, I couldn't tolerate it. The dyskinesia was awful. I'd rather do this. So that is why it takes so long. Now, this last time when the battery crapped out, I had an appointment in April. He said to me, I don't think you're going to make it for the 6 months till you see me again. In May, I got up and he said, just check your voltage every day. When it hit a certain point, he said, let me know. So I did. I sent him an email. The subject line was, do you have the Energizer Bunny on speed dial? And so my new battery, which is even more interesting, let's talk about changing it. And then I'll talk about my new battery. It's outpatient surgery. It takes about 40 minutes. You'll leave with 14 staples and a staple remover. The problem is every time they change the batteries, every time they cut you open, you run the risk of infection. So you don't want, and it's going to get shorter and shorter lifespan every time they change my battery. So it could be an hour and a half if I wait long enough. So there's a new type of battery out, and here it comes. Rechargeable. Now, how do you recharge it? Well, my kids joke that you back me up to a light socket and plug me in, but not quite. I have my little kit here, you see. And I have a charger. Now, this looks an awful lot like the controller, but it's not. It's a charger. So what you do is you plug this into the wall and charge it. And then it has an antenna, and you take this and you put it there. You push the button. No, I won't do it now because I can't find it. But anyhow, so that's what you do. Now, what if you can't find the right spot? Well, I got a flak jacket. It looks like I work for the FBI when I put this thing on. My bulletproof vest. But it's got a hole, here it is, right there where you put the charger, or the antenna rather, and you wear it over your shoulder. Theoretically it works. The problem is the sweet spot is very narrow. And if you move it too much, it beeps at you and gives you hell, and you got to go do it again. And I find it very, very difficult to find the sweet spot. That's my biggest beef with this. However, I am told that they are doing more and more where they're using rechargeable batteries the first time through. They're spending so much time replacing batteries that they can't use the operating room for doing the actual surgery. So they're going more with rechargeables right off the bat. Oh, that's good enough. Okay, now, how do I recharge? Well, once every 2 days, every day and a half or so, for 45 minutes, I put that stupid thing on. Now, you can't let it fully discharge, because the lower it gets, the longer it takes to charge. Like right now I'm at 75%. I can do it in 45 minutes. If I let it go to 50%, it may take me an hour and a half. At 25%, it could take me 4 hours. If I let it discharge completely, I'm good for 3 tries. After that, this thing's useless. And you got to take it out, and you got to wait a year to start over again. So you can be damn sure that I'm making sure that this thing is charged. Now, it makes you a little paranoid because I want to make sure I'm up to date, right? So it says 75. And by the way, the way it reads is, it's not accurate. So you got a graph, 100, 70, 50, 25. So when it says 75, I could be 76 or 92. I don't know. But if it says 75, I'm going to charge it tonight. So I can do it quickly, normally half an hour while I'm watching TV or something like that. So what does tomorrow bring? Well, aside from what you guys are doing, for me, I don't know. Hopefully my life will continue to be as good as it is now, which is pretty good. I have to tell you a fast story. I used to coordinate the Parkinson's Super Walk in Brampton and Mississauga. I did that for 10 years. The year I had the surgery in 2014, I had surgery in July. In September, I was there helping run the event. And we kicked off the walk, and they started walking down in front of the Living Arts Center. I don't know how many people know where it is. Started walking down the street, and I wanted to get a picture because that was great. So I went back to the DJ table, picked up my camera, and I ran kitty corner across the grass to that corner so I could get a picture of the people coming. And as I'm running, I'm going, what am I doing? I can't run. Yes, I can. Now, I can't now, but I did that day. So sometimes you do things where you don't know where you're going. So anyhow, well, almost half an hour. That's pretty good. Any questions?